What began as a series of calculated airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has now evolved into something far more ambitious. Israel's initial operation, launched under the codename Rising Lion, targeted key nuclear and missile infrastructure inside Iran. But what followed signaled a shift in intention. Strikes began targeting symbols of state authority, police headquarters, media broadcasters, and government communications infrastructure. Simultaneously, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued public appeals for the Iranian people to rise up and overthrow what he called the rogue regime, referring to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. On the diplomatic and ideological front, exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has released a stirring video message calling on Iranians across the country to carry out peaceful civil disobedience, such as widespread strikes, boycotts, and refusal to work as means to topple the clerical regime and pave the way for a secular and democratic Iran.
جمهوری اسلامی به پایان خود رسیده و در حال سقوط است. خامنه‌ای همچون موشی هراسان زیر زمین پنهان شده و کنترل اوضاع را از دست داده است. آنچه آغاز شده برگشت ناپذیر است. آینده روشن است و ما با هم از این پیچ تند تاریخ عبور خواهیم کرد. در این روزهای دشوار دل من با همه شهروندان بی‌دفاعی است که آسیب دیدند و قربانی جنگ طلبی و توهمات خامنه‌ای شدند. من سالها کوشیدم تا میهنمان گرفتار آتش جنگ نشود. پایان جمهوری اسلامی پایان جنگ 46 ساله آن با ملت ایران است. دستگاه سرکوب رژیم در حال فروپاشی است. تنها یک خیزش همگانی لازم است تا این کابوس برای همیشه پایان یابد. اکنون زمان ایستادن است. نگران فردای پس از سقوط جمهوری اسلامی نباشید. ایران دچار جنگ داخلی و بی‌ثباتی نخواهد شد. ما برای آینده ایران و شکوفایی‌اش برنامه داریم. ما برای 100 روز نخست پس از سقوط، دوران گذار و استقرار یک حکومت ملی و دموکراتیک برای ملت ایران و به دست ملت ایران آماده ایم. پاینده ایران، زنده باد ملت ایران.
Despite widespread damage, Iran's leadership structure appears intact for now. The regime's history of weathering protests, such as the 2009 Green Movement, the 2019 fuel protests, and 2022 Mahsa Amini protests, demonstrates its capacity to survive internal unrest, especially during times of external aggression. Experts argue that military strikes alone are unlikely to cause regime collapse. Iran's leadership, while ideologically rigid, is not monolithic. It functions through a dense network of loyalist clergy, military elites, and bureaucrats who maintain cohesion even under duress. Moreover, the sense of nationalism triggered by foreign attacks may paradoxically strengthen internal unity rather than dissolve it. Past experiences show that regimes under siege often grow more authoritarian and resilient. Unless there is a major defection within the political elite or armed forces, a scenario for which there is little evidence, Tehran's grip on power may hold, at least in the short term. If regime collapse were to occur, either through internal upheaval or external force, the outcomes could be chaotic and unpredictable. Several possibilities are being discussed among analysts. One is the rise of a hardline successor regime. Supreme Leader Khamenei, now in his late 80s, has long been grooming his son for leadership. In a crisis, hardliners could rally around him or another loyal figure to maintain continuity through repression. Another possibility is a technocratic reformist government emerging from within the Islamic Republic, possibly led by existing moderate figures such as current President Masoud Pezeshkian. Yet such an outcome would require elite consensus and civil society mobilization, both of which are currently constrained. Some exile groups also hope for a restoration of the monarchy under Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince. While he enjoys symbolic popularity among parts of the diaspora and segments of Iran's youth, there is little evidence of serious domestic momentum for monarchy restoration. The most dangerous scenario is a power vacuum. If the regime collapses without a viable successor, Iran could descend into civil strife, with different regions and factions vying for power. In this situation, ethnic and sectarian divisions could fuel violence, especially by different ethnicities. A failed state scenario could empower extremist actors, destabilize neighboring countries, and prolong conflict for years. The regional fallout from a regime collapse in Iran would be enormous. Iran's network of proxy forces, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen, would likely respond violently to perceived Western or Israeli interference. These groups have already launched retaliatory drone and missile attacks on US and Israeli targets, signaling their readiness to escalate. The collapse of their sponsor state could lead them to act more aggressively or conversely, fragment due to lack of coordination and funding. Internationally, the conflict has already impacted global energy markets. Oil prices have spiked, with Brent crude trading over $100 per barrel in recent days. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of global oil passes, remains a potential flashpoint. Insurance rates for shipping through the region have soared, and many commercial carriers are rerouting to avoid Iranian waters. Humanitarian organizations warn of a looming refugee crisis, as thousands have begun fleeing cities like Tehran and Isfahan to avoid further bombardments. Despite Netanyahu's bold rhetoric and Israel's military superiority, forcibly removing Iran's leadership may backfire. History offers sobering lessons. US-led regime changes in Iraq and Libya led to protracted chaos and empowered extremist factions. Iran is larger, more populous, and more politically complex. A sudden collapse without a viable transition plan could unleash instability on a scale unseen in the region since the Syrian civil war. Furthermore, military pressure often strengthens authoritarian resolve. Under siege, regimes tend to crack down harder on opposition, close ranks internally, and radicalize their policies. Already, Iran has ramped up domestic propaganda and framed the war as a Zionist American operation, appealing to nationalist instincts, even among non-conservatives. While some in Israel and the US view regime change as a desirable outcome, most analysts advocate a more pragmatic course. A negotiated ceasefire that includes verifiable limitations on Iran's nuclear program, along with de-escalation measures on both sides, remains the least dangerous path forward. Though imperfect, diplomacy could stabilize the crisis and reduce the risk of full-scale regional war. Nevertheless, the rhetoric from both sides suggests a prolonged conflict. Netanyahu has vowed to continue operations until the threat is neutralized. Meanwhile, Iranian leaders have promised severe revenge and show no sign of conceding to military pressure. Without third-party mediation, possibly from Europe, China, or Russia, there is little room for a diplomatic breakthrough in the near term. In conclusion, Israel's current campaign marks a dramatic escalation not just in military terms, but also in political ambition. While halting Iran's nuclear capabilities remains a legitimate security concern, the pursuit of regime change by force is fraught with risks. The Islamic Republic, despite its internal tensions, is far from fragile. At the same time, increasing domestic discontent, coordinated external pressure, and rising visibility of alternative leadership figures like Reza Pahlavi indicate that transformative change is not beyond reach. However, any potential transition, whether through internal reform, popular uprising, or external disruption, carries significant risks of instability.